Hello, welcome to today's On This Day in Tudor History. I'm Claire Ridgway. I write about Tudor history, research and write about it for a living. Get my Tudor fix every day. I'm the writer of this book, On This Day in Tudor History, which has inspired these daily videos, which bring you Tudor goodies every day, Tudor history events from that my very favourite period of history, of course, starting with the reign of King Henry VII and ending, I can't get my words out this morning, ending with the death of Queen Elizabeth I in 1603, so the period 1485 to 1603. Where am I taking you this morning? Well, we're travelling back in time to King Henry VIII's reign. On this day in Tudor history, the 18th of June 1546, Anne Askew, who was the estranged wife of Thomas Kyme, was found guilty of heresy at London's Guildhall, along with Nicholas Shaxton, who was the former Bishop of Salisbury. All sorts going on with cats playing in the background here, sorry about that. So she was found guilty of heresy along with Nicholas Shaxton, former Bishop of Salisbury, Nicholas White and John Hadlam. So they were all found guilty of heresy. Now, chronicler and Windsor Herald Charles Risley, now as an aside, his name is spelt Wriothesley, starting with a W, but it's pronounced as either Risley or Risley. Just an aside there, because I love these Tudor spellings. We have great words in British English. You do in American English too. But he recorded the results of the hearing that day. He wrote, the 18th day of June 1546 were arraigned at the Guild Certain Hall for heresy Dr. Nicholas Shaxton, sometime Bishop of Salisbury, Nicholas White of London, gentleman, Anne Kern or Kyme, alias Anne Askew, gentlewoman, and wife of Thomas Kyme, gentleman of Lincolnshire, and John Hadlam of Essex, tailor, and were this day first indicted of heresy, and after arraigned on the same, and there confessed their heresies against the sacrament of the altar, without any trial of a jury, and so had judgment to be burnt. Now, that famous martyrologist, writer of Book of Martyrs or Acts and Monuments, John Foxe, shares Anne Askew's own account of her condemnation at Guildhall on that day in 1546. They said to me there that I was a heretic and condemned by the law if I would stand in my opinion. I answered that I was no heretic, neither yet deserved I any death by the law of God. But, as concerning the faith which I uttered and wrote to the council, I would not, I said, deny it, because I knew it true. Then would they needs know if I would deny the sacrament to be Christ's body and blood. And I said, yea, for the same Son of God that was born of the Virgin Mary is now glorious in heaven, and will come again from thence at the latter day, like as he went up. And as for that ye call your God, it is a piece of bread. For a more proof thereof, mark it when you list. Let it but lie in the box 3 months, and it will be mouldy, and so turn to nothing that is good. Whereupon I am persuaded that it cannot be God. After that they willed me to have a priest, and then I smiled. Then they asked me if it were not good. I said I would confess my faults unto God, for I was sure that he would hear with favour. And so we were condemned by a quest. My belief, which I wrote to the council, was this, that the sacramental bread was left us to be received with thanksgiving in remembrance of Christ's death, the only remedy of our soul's recovery, and that thereby we also receive the whole benefits and fruits of his most glorious passion. Then would they needs know whether the bread in the box were God or no. I said, God is a spirit, and will be worshipped in spirit and truth. Then they demanded, will you plainly deny Christ to be in the sacrament? I answered that I believe faithfully the eternal Son of God not to dwell there. In witness whereof I recited again the history of Bel, Dan 19, Act 7, and so that's Daniel 19, Act 7 and Act 17, and Matthew 24, concluding thus, I neither wish death, nor yet fear his might. God have the praise thereof with thanks. And that's just a wonderful defence of her beliefs. Now, according to Anne, Nicholas Shaxton visited her in prison and counselled her to recant as he had done. I said to him that it had been good for him never to have been born. So Anne was not at all impressed that one of the men that had been found guilty of heresy with her was now recanting to save his life, and she thought it was best that he'd never been born. Anne was then put to the rack illegally. It was illegal to rack women, but she was put to the rack illegally at the Tower of London by Sir Richard Rich and Sir Thomas Wriothesley, in the hope that she would give them the names of other reformers at court, particularly ladies linked to Queen Catherine Parr, who was, of course, Henry VIII's wife at the time, his sixth and final wife. Anne described her racking. Then they did put me on the rack, because I confessed no ladies or gentlewomen to be of my opinion. And thereon they kept me a long time. And because I lay still and did not cry, my Lord Chancellor and Master Rich took pains to rack me with their own hands till I was nigh dead. Then the lieutenant caused me to be loosed from the rack. Incontinently I swooned, and then they recovered me again. After that I sat 2 long hours reasoning with my Lord Chancellor upon the bare floor, where he, with many flattering words, persuaded me to leave my opinion. But my Lord God, I thank his everlasting goodness, gave me grace to persevere, and will do, I hope, to the very end. In what a courageous woman to go through all of that and I just don't know how on earth she could cope with being racked with such courage, with such dignity. What courage. As I said, Anne, Shaxton, White and Hadlam were all sentenced to be burnt for heresy, but Shaxton and White were saved by recanting their heretical beliefs, or their beliefs that were seen as heretical at the time. But Anne and Hadlam went on to be burnt at the stake on the 16th of July 1546, along with reformers John Lascelles and John Hemley. Anne had been so badly racked by that time that she had to be carried to the stake, and a chair had to be attached to the stake so that her body could be supported. There was no way she could stand at the stake. She was in such a bad way. Anne Askew died for her faith, and regardless of what you believe, whether you have a faith or not, this woman deserves to be remembered for her incredible courage, for sticking to her beliefs and going to her death and putting up such an amazing defence of her beliefs as well, such a strong and courageous woman. So I've shared with you the story of, well, a bit of the story of Anne Askew there, who was found guilty of heresy on this day in 1546 at Guildhall in London. Guildhall being a building in London that you can actually still see today. So do look out for it when you're in London. It's a beautiful building, but obviously has quite a horrible history of, these trials. Like Lady Jane Grey was also found guilty at Guildhall as well. So it has a very mixed history. I do hope you're enjoying these videos. Please do give it a like if you've enjoyed it. You can subscribe to my channel by clicking around about there and hit the bell to be notified as well of videos as they go live. There will be plenty more coming this year. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.